When Leonardo da Vinci died in France in May of 1519, an inventory was taken of everything found in his rooms, his notebooks, his unfinished manuscripts, his anatomical drawings, and his paintings. Of everything he ever made, the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, the Vitruvian Man. There were 3 works he had carried with him out of Italy, across the Alps, into the last chapter of his life. 3 paintings he would not leave behind. This was one of them. Look at it, and ask yourself, why this one? The first thing you notice is the finger. It points upward, slowly, deliberately, into a darkness so complete that whatever it indicates exists entirely beyond the frame, beyond the painting, beyond reach. But that's not what stops you. What stops you is the smile. It is almost identical to the Mona Lisa's, that same quiet, asymmetric curve at the corner of the mouth, that same impossible to pin down quality that has driven art historians to disagreement for 5 centuries. Is it serene? Is it knowing? Is it slightly, just slightly, amused? And then you remember who this is. John the Baptist, the prophet who walked barefoot in the desert, survived on locusts and wild honey, and spent his life crying into the wilderness. Repent, prepare yourselves. Something is coming that you are not ready for. A man who was eventually imprisoned, then beheaded, his head brought to a banquet on a platter as entertainment for a king's stepdaughter. This man is smiling, not the strained, martyred serenity of religious art, not the 1,000-yard stare of a man who has glimpsed eternity and barely survived. Something altogether more unsettling. He is smiling the way someone smiles when they know something you don't, when they have looked somewhere you haven't looked yet, and they are waiting, patiently, warmly, with what might almost be pity for you to catch up. People have stood in front of this painting in the Louvre for 500 years and felt something they could not name. Something like discomfort, something like being seen. In the 18th century, someone felt the disturbance so acutely that they physically altered the painting, adding a leopard skin draped across the figure's body, painting in palm fronds, adjusting the composition to make it feel more suitable, more holy, more like what a saint was supposed to look like. They were eventually removed. The restoration returned the painting to what Leonardo intended. But that impulse, that need to cover something up, to make the image more comfortable, more categorizable, tells you more about this painting than almost any scholarly analysis could. Something here refuses to be comfortable. Something here refuses to be contained. Look again, the background. It is not sky. It is not architecture. It is not landscape. It is nothing. Pure, absolute, consuming black. The kind of darkness that has no edge and no bottom. The kind of darkness that, if you stare into it long enough, begins to feel less like an absence and more like a presence. The figure does not stand against the darkness. He emerges from it, as if he was always there, just beneath the surface. As if the darkness is not behind him, but inside him, or he inside it. And the light we see is not cast from outside, but generated from within. Where is the light source? There isn't one. In every technical sense, the illumination in this painting is impossible. The light falls across the face, the raised arm, the gentle curl of the hair, but it comes from nowhere. From no sun, no window, no candle. Leonardo, who spent decades studying optics, who wrote thousands of words about the behavior of light on surfaces, who understood the mechanics of vision better than almost anyone alive, painted a figure whose light source cannot be explained. The man who studied everything chose, in his final years, to paint the impossible. Why? By the time Leonardo painted this, he was in his early 60s, ancient by the standards of the Renaissance. His right hand had partially seized the result of a stroke, most scholars believe, and the hand that had drawn the most meticulous studies of human anatomy in history could no longer hold a brush with certainty. He had assistants complete portions of other works. The notebooks, 40 years of questions, of investigations, of theories that could have changed the course of science if he had ever published them, sat unfinished. Thousands of pages. Anatomy, optics, hydraulics, flight. Pages that no one had read. Pages that he knew would likely die with him. He had spent his entire life pursuing the nature of things. Light, shadow, the structure of bones, the movement of water, the way the eye receives and misreads the world. And for all that pursuit, for all that accumulated knowledge, he had almost nothing finished to show for it. He left Italy in 1516 at the invitation of François I, King of France, who offered him a manor house, a generous pension, and the title, Premier Painter, Engineer, and Architect to the King, a title more ceremonial than functional. What the young king really wanted was the great man's company, to sit with him, to talk with him, to have Leonardo da Vinci in the room, and Leonardo, old, paralyzed, his great project suspended, accepted. He brought 3 paintings. One of them was this. Now look at the face again. The model for St. John the Baptist is almost certainly Gian Giacomo Caproti, a young man Leonardo had taken into his workshop at the age of 10 and kept close for the next 26 years. He appears in Leonardo's notes as Salii, meaning little devil. Leonardo documented his thefts, his bad behavior, his incorrigible charm. He was with Leonardo until very near the end. And his face, that soft, knowing, androgynous face, appears again and again across Leonardo's late work. In the Louvre hangs another painting attributed to Leonardo or his circle, St. John the Baptist in the Wilderness, sometimes called Bacchus. The same figure, the same face. But there, in open landscape, holding a thyrsus instead of a cross, a pagan god wearing a saint's identity. And in the recognized John, the cross John holds is barely visible, a thin reed, dark against dark. If you didn't know to look for it, you might not notice it at all. Leonardo painted the symbol of John's entire purpose, the cross that represents everything he existed to announce, as almost an afterthought, and gave him instead that smile, the smile that has no precedent in 5 centuries of religious painting. Here is something the theologians knew, even if the painters often forgot it. John the Baptist is the strangest figure in the gospel narrative. He is not the hero. He does not perform miracles. He does not teach in parables. He does not die for anything he believed. He dies for someone else's belief, as a casualty of a king's vanity. His entire purpose is to point. When his disciples ask him about Jesus, John says, "He must increase, and I must decrease." That is the totality of John the Baptist's theology. I am not the thing. I am the finger pointing at the thing. He exists to become less, to recede, to direct all eyes away from himself and toward something he will never fully possess, something that, by his own admission, he is not worthy to approach. He is the messenger who knows, with complete certainty, that he is not the message. Now think about the pointing finger in Leonardo's painting. It has appeared before, across multiple works, across decades. In the Last Supper, a figure raises that same index finger, pointing upward, insisting on something above and beyond the frame. In The Angel of the Virgin of the Rocks, the angel points sideways at the infant John, directing the viewer's eye away from the angel itself and toward the Holy Child. In Salvator Mundi, Christ is Savior of the world. The right hand is raised, 2 fingers extended in the ancient gesture of blessing, pointing not at himself but outward, toward you. Leonardo was obsessed with this gesture, with the figure who cannot show you the thing directly, who can only point. And here is where the painting begins to crack open. Because Leonardo da Vinci, the man who spent his entire life pointing at things, never arrived, never completed, never fully possessed what he pursued. His journals are full of investigations that end mid-sentence. Theories he began and never resolved. Questions he lived with for decades without answers. He once wrote, "I've been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do." He wrote that, and then didn't do, couldn't finish. Not the notebooks, not the paintings, not the great bronze horse monument in Milan that was melted into cannons before he could cast it. His whole life was the pointing finger, pointing at knowledge he approached but never held, pointing at beauty he perceived but could never fully render, pointing at truth he spent 40 years circling without arriving, and in his last years, in a manor house in France, with his hands stilled, his time running out, he painted a saint whose entire spiritual identity was the act of pointing beyond himself, into darkness, with a smile. Here is the question underneath every other question this painting has been asking. Not, what is John pointing at? Not, who is the model? Not, where is the light source? The real question is this: what do you have to have seen? What do you have to have accepted to smile like that? That smile is not the smile of someone who has found the answer. It is the smile of someone who has made peace with never finding it. There is a difference, and it is everything. Think about the things in your own life that you are waiting to resolve before you allow yourself peace. The career that needs to reach a certain point. The relationship that needs to reach a certain certainty. The grief that needs to finish before life begins again. The question about meaning, about death, about whether any of this matters, that needs an answer before you can rest. We are very good at this, at postponing, at treating the darkness as a temporary condition, as something that, given enough time and effort and correct information, will eventually be resolved into clarity. And so we point at the darkness, we study it, we map its edges, we build systems to explain it. Religions, philosophies, psychologies, all of them elaborate pointing fingers aimed at the black. But the darkness doesn't resolve. It was there before you. It will be there after. It is the background against which every moment of your life is briefly, beautifully illuminated. And the question, the only question that actually matters, is not how to eliminate it. The question is how to stop being afraid of it. Consider what it means that the greatest mind of the Renaissance, a man who could dissect the structure of the eye, calculate the force of water through a canal, and sketch a flying machine 4 centuries before one ever flew, chose, in his final years, to paint something that deliberately defied explanation. He could have given John a light source. He knew exactly how. He chose not to. He could have placed the figure in a landscape, in architecture, in the recognizable world. He had done it before, effortlessly, masterfully. He chose the void instead. This was not a failure of imagination. This was not an old man losing his grip. This was a decision. Leonardo, after a lifetime of relentlessly mapping what could be known, made a conscious, considered choice to paint the boundary where knowing stops. To render, with the full force of his technical genius, the place where questions no longer have answers. And he did it with a smile. That is either the act of a broken man, or the act of someone who has arrived somewhere that most people never reach. Acceptance without surrender. Think about the shape of your own ambitions for a moment, not the dreams you've already let go of. Those are easy to release, because desire for them has already faded. Think about the ones still burning, the ones you grip, the ones tied to your sense of who you are, what you're worth, what your life is supposed to mean. You believe, most of us believe, that peace is somewhere ahead, on the other side of an answer, on the far side of an achievement, that once a certain question is resolved, once a certain level is reached, then things will settle. Then you will stop feeling like you're running toward a horizon that keeps retreating. But here is what Leonardo seems to have understood, somewhere in the long quiet of his final years. The horizon is not the problem. Your war with it is. You can spend a life fighting the fact that some things will never resolve, that some questions are not puzzles to be solved, but territories to be inhabited. Or you can do what the figure in this painting seems to have done. Lower the weapon, look directly at the unknown, and find that when you stop fighting it, when you stop needing it to resolve before you're willing to rest, something unexpected happens. It becomes the background that makes you visible. It becomes the darkness that lets you glow. John the Baptist's entire purpose was to serve something he would never fully possess, to point at a truth too large for any single person to contain, to stand at the edge of the knowable world and say, beyond this, something waits. He never held the answer. He was never meant to. His role was the pointing, the willingness to direct all of his life's energy towards something greater than himself, and find in that act not diminishment, but purpose. He must increase. I must decrease. That single sentence holds more psychological wisdom than most self-help libraries combined. Because most of us live in permanent resistance to it. We want to increase. We want to be the destination, not the gesture. We want our name on the answer, not just the question. But Leonardo, who spent 40 years trying to increase, to know, to master, painted John with the face of someone who had finally, fully understood. The most powerful thing you can become is a clear, unobstructed pointer, not the thing pointed at. The one with the courage and the stillness to indicate a direction and trust that something real is there, even when you cannot see it yourself. That the finger was the gift, not the destination. That you were always the messenger. And that the luminous, sourceless light in this painting, the light with no explanation, no origin, no logic, was never a technical mystery to be solved. It was the answer Leonardo had been painting toward his entire life. There is a word in Italian that Leonardo used more than almost any other in his notebooks. Sfumato? It means going up in smoke, dissolving. Without edges, without lines. It is the technique he invented, or perfected, of blending colors and tones so gradually that the boundary between one thing and another disappears, so that the figure and the background exist not as two separate things, but as a single continuous reality. The darkness becoming the figure. The figure becoming the darkness. He used it to paint the Mona Lisa. He used it, at the end of his life, to paint John, the saint who dissolves at his edges, who has no clear boundary between himself and the void behind him, who could, if you kept looking, keep dissolving, backward, slowly, gently, into the black until only the smile remained. And then the smile too. Gone. The painting is in Paris. It has been there for centuries, and still, people stand in front of it and feel something they cannot fully articulate. That discomfort that drove someone to paint a leopard skin over it. That feeling of being known by something that has no reason to know you. That question without an answer. That curiosity without resolution. That leaning forward into what? Into a man pointing at something you cannot see. Into a darkness you cannot map. Into a smile that seems to say, you will understand eventually. Not now, but eventually. When you stop needing to. Leonardo kept this painting until he died. Not the Mona Lisa. Not the anatomical drawings, not the Last Supper cartoons. This. A man emerging from darkness, pointing at something invisible, smiling the smile of someone who has looked directly at everything frightening and found, not answers, but the peace that lives past the need for them. Maybe Leonardo kept it because it was unfinished. Maybe he kept it because it was the most honest thing he had ever made. Maybe he kept it because it showed him, every day, in the face of a painted saint, the thing he had been practicing his whole life. How to point beyond yourself. How to serve a light you cannot hold. How to face the dark with your hand open and your eyes steady and let it mean something you don't yet have the words for. The finger is still pointing. It has been pointing for 500 years. The question is not where it's pointing. The question is whether you're ready to look.